I think most people would agree that generally, for an academic, well-rounded student, there are traits that build, a good student with, a good grade and a good GPA, and then there's also, traits that build an awful student that, sleeps in all their classes and will potentially be homeless in the future. But generally, these traits are pretty well easily defined. But I wanted to go over some of them and how I see them literally every day in my environment, because pretty much every high school environment will exhibit some students with particular traits that resemble a awful student and particular traits that resemble a well-rounded student like Peter. But essentially, this is a cover-up. I don't actually care. I'm really just trying to complain and tell some weird stories and examples of people who exhibit these certain traits. But in terms of a bad student, I would say, there's obviously like countless things you can say, but procrastination is definitely the biggest thing, or at least one of the biggest things. And I saw this TED Talk like in 6th grade, like freaking years ago, but I see it like every few years or every freaking year it comes back. This Tim Urban guy. I don't freaking want to go over it, but it's pretty simple. The first half is really basic. It just says, what is procrastination? It's like, oh yeah, if you put off an assignment over and over and over again, it's going to snowball, become stressed, and then you're going to wake up the day before or some point really close to the deadline, and you're going to realize, oh frick, I got to do it at some point. And then that's when you do it, and it's really awful because it's pressed for time. And that's essentially procrastination. And then in the second half of the TED Talk, he goes into detail about this more relatable thing for me, because I don't procrastinate anymore, but when I do procrastinate, which I don't want to say that, but I do procrastinate in things outside of school, which the TED Talk goes into detail. It's like, if you don't have a deadline, and everything in school has a deadline, so I don't procrastinate in school, but outside of school, when stuff doesn't have a deadline and I need to do something, I don't do it because it doesn't have a deadline, so it never crosses my mind, because everything in my life, everything structured is like, oh, I need to do it before this certain time, that's why I have to do it. If I don't have a deadline, it's like, you should do that at some point, and at that point, I'm just like, I'll do it at some point, right? And then it just never happens because there's no deadline. But that's definitely the biggest thing, procrastination. I'm still a victim to it. I think everyone's kind of a victim to it. Procrastination is a natural thing that runs its course, because everyone will always have the thought of like delaying something that they don't want to do later. Except for Peter. Peter does everything freaking early as hell. I don't know, that guy's not human. But generally, procrastination is a pretty big issue. And I see it everywhere at base school. That's just a normal thing. Obviously, an average student is going to procrastinate. But surprisingly, at Gov school, everyone procrastinates too. And I was not expecting that, because when I went to Gov school, I thought everyone would be like gods of academic, like freaking good traits. But no, everyone at Gov school is relatively stupid. And I told my brothers that. I was like, oh, I think everyone at Gov school is actually pretty stupid. And they're like, oh, what if they're not stupid? You're just smart. And I'm like, like maybe. Not really. I don't like that mindset. That's kind of like egotistical. But I would accept both sides of the coin there. They're probably kind of dumb, and I'm probably slightly smart. But either way, procrastination in terms of everything. I walk into like class some days, and then like there's math homework, and everyone's doing the math homework on the day it's due. And that's like really confuzzling to me, because I walk in seeing everyone do math homework. I'm like, is there math homework due like next week? And they're like, no, this is the one that's due today. I'm like, it's due today, and you're doing it today. There's nothing more to that example. It's just like I walk into a giant classroom of people all doing math homework. Even the teacher has to come out and point it out. He's like, all right, guys, class is starting, put your math homework away. I'm like, I'm surprised she accepts that so easily. We're in a school of like supposedly top academic students, and everyone's procrastinating. It really confuses me. But everyone's procrastinating. Literally on the bus ride, this one guy that I would consider my friend, I guess I can consider a lot of people my friend, but he kind of does his homework on the bus ride to Gov school the morning that it's due, and he's at the point where it's pitch black, so he needs to get his phone flashlight out to light up the homework, and then he's also just like freaking one hand like weird cramped set up on a bus seat. It's the most homeless looking thing I've ever seen. And then half of the time he literally falls asleep. I just see him like, and then he like slumps over, and then all his paper falls onto the floor. And I look at that and I'm just like, dude, what if you did it last night? Like, is it really that difficult to do your work like slightly earlier? And the way I do it is, if I'm given an assignment at school with a deadline, I'm gonna do it when I get home, so that way I don't have to worry about it ever again. And like, I don't know why anyone else just wouldn't do that. And I don't think there's a solution to procrastination that's like foolproof. I think it's more of just like do you have the willpower to like make a change in your like habits? Because in the end, if you have a habit to procrastinate, like for like a lot of things, then you're obviously just gonna keep doing it because it's a habit. But if you just break that habit, that would be pretty cool. I don't know. I don't really know how people like break habits. Just change your environment, manipulate stuff until you know make something work. But if you stop procrastinating for like a week, I'm pretty sure you'd be fine to never procrastinate again. But that's basically where I'm at. I personally don't procrastinate, and then in terms of everything else, outside of school, I still procrastinate. I put off the driving permit for like 5 months, and then I randomly took the test and got my permit the day after I complained about it. But, you know, I put off this current application for this weird summer program for like 2 weeks, and then I suddenly started working on it. And I still need my dad's email for that, but I'm not going to ask him because I'm procrastinating, and it has no deadline. It does have a deadline. I'm procrastinating right now. But generally, I usually don't procrastinate on like general, just like normal schoolwork and crap and all that good stuff. Generally, I don't procrastinate. But most people do procrastinate, and you know, that's just something everybody has to work on, including me, except for Peter, because that guy's just a god. But procrastination's one issue, probably one of the bigger issues. Another issue is definitely, I can't really name, there's like countless of issues you can do, but I think the biggest other issue would definitely just be like your lack of care for school, depending on like what you, like it's standards, that's what it is, standards. Because part of it is standards, part of it is caring. If you care a lot, but you get like an F and you're like, oh, I did my best, and if you actually did your best and you got an F, that's, I don't want to say what that would mean, but that's pretty tragic. But I feel like most people, I would separate the two, standards and, you know, how much you care. Most people at school, I feel like, don't care. A lot of people. I walk into class and I know a few people who like just don't care about school. They're really stupid, but they just don't really show much effort. And when they do show effort, it's like forced and like lazy and like really crappy. And then half of it's just cheating. They show the effort that they're willing to cheat to get a good grade. I'm like, like if you're willing to cheat for a good grade, why not just actually work for the good grade? Like that seems like a pretty smart idea. But like those are those people. I'm not gonna judge them or like freaking cultivate them and be like, what if you come to the light side and like start freaking actually doing work and caring about school? But no, they do their own thing, and like I don't understand how they function. But if you don't care about school, you're obviously not gonna be a good student because you don't give a crap, and there's nothing more to really say about that. The solution to that is start caring about school, which means you actually try harder. But the other half of that I like to divide it is definitely standards, because it's definitely mix and match. They're like closely related, standards and like you know, how much you care. Because if you care more, you're gonna have higher standards. But freaking people at gov school, I would mention people at base school, but like generally you're gonna have, every class has the students that just like fail. But even at gov school, surprisingly, the F's, D's, and E's and C's and all those are very strong. I did get a D on my first chem quiz, but I clutched up with the continuous A train to like get myself back on track. And that was because I was trolling at the start of the year. I didn't take it very seriously, but I had to lock in real quick and get my grade back, and I had to increase my standards and become an academic student. But most people, I feel like, didn't do that for some reason. I feel like a lot of people got the same experience as me. They came into gov school trolling. They're like, blah, 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 and then they get a freaking awful grade on the first thing, and they're like, frick, I need to start trying. That's what happened to me, but no one else did that. Everyone else was just like, oh, frick, let me just keep doing the same thing and keep getting a trash grade. So like there's group chats, God bless that group chat. Everyone's like complaining. They're like, oh, I got a D, man. Like, oh, I got an F, man. It's like, oh, I got a C, guys. Don't worry, I did decent. I'm like, people like me and Peter and like some other people, we stay out of the group chat because that place is like a freaking ditch of absolute garbage. We're out here getting like 99s on these tests while they're getting freaking 50s. I don't know how that's even possible, but basically, I would say they don't have high standards if they're celebrating a C. I'm really confused. Like, I watch these people, like, before a test. We're, like, about to walk into the classroom. Everyone's like, oh, good luck, man. Good luck. Like, I don't know why everyone's so stressed. It's just a test. But people, like, tell each other what they want to say. Oh, I just hope I get a C. I'm like, maybe increase that standard a little bit. And I don't want to sound, like, bratty or anything, but, like, I feel like people should just have higher standards. And, like, Obviously, I'm a nerd and all for like thinking that, and I don't mind being called a nerd because it's just saying that you try harder at school. The thing I do mind is when stupid people call you a nerd, people who have Fs and don't try really hard, because those are the same people complaining about their F and saying, oh, why can't I get I wish I had a higher grade, and then they call you a nerd. Like, dude, I'm a nerd because I got a higher grade, and you want a higher grade, but you won't try for it. So like, stop calling me a nerd, dig yourself out of the ditch, and then come back and talk to me, and we can have a normal conversation. But like, you know, whatever. People just don't have proper standards. But generally, I feel like the worst traits that get people, generally, the first mindset issue is obviously how much you care about school and how much work you're willing to put in, what your standard is. But that's like an internal mind thing. But actually, everything's an internal mind thing. I'm talking about traits. But your mindset with like what you're willing to put in, how much you're willing to try, your standards, that's all the first half. And then the second half is just actual things that get in your way, like procrastination, that kind of just like destroys you if you let it run loose. But in the end, I feel like it's just having the dedication and willpower, because if you have actual care, actual willpower and dedication, then you're gonna fix everything regardless, and it doesn't matter what video you watch or what garbage you get preached. Like, if you want to change something, like actually want to change, and you have the willpower to do it, then you're gonna do it. You're gonna change in a positive way, preferably. But that's really all it is. I'm just complaining about Gov school students exhibiting several signs of poor academics, such as, you know, procrastination, lack of care, and poor standards. I could go on the opposite end and say good traits, but everyone knows what good traits are. It's literally the opposite. You just negate everything I just said. Opposite of a bad student would just be don't procrastinate, care about school, and set high standards. And if I would not refer to myself for that, even though I do exhibit most of those, but I don't want to be bratty, so I'll obviously refer to Peter because he's always 5 miles ahead of me regardless. That guy, traits he exhibits, he does all his work before class, which is supposed to not be possible, but he gets it done anyway. He learns the unit a month before we learn it. That's pretty weird. And then he also, you know, all that good stuff. He's just a well-rounded academic student. And not only that, the issue I have with like procrastinating outside of school when there's no deadline, he sets his own deadlines, he sets his own crap. He's literally a fully functional adult as a high schooler. I don't know how. He's starting a business. I think I've mentioned this before, but he's starting a business. He's running for vice president of his little club thing. I don't follow anything he does, but it's a lot to follow. But he's doing a lot of stuff as a well-rounded student. But in the end, the traits of a bad student are just like procrastination, lack of care, and then therefore the traits of a good student would just be not procrastinating and, you know, actually caring about school and putting in work and, you know, having the willpower to make a change necessary in order to like cultivate a better academic educational experience. But that's all there is to it. I'm really just complaining about dumb people in my area and people that are too smart like Peter. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm just complaining.